Hi, I'm Jillian. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Blogger Genius podcast. This has been a very interesting time. Google has been rolling out updates, and many bloggers, niche bloggers who monetize via ads and affiliates have gotten hit. I've been on calls this week with many of you, and one blogger said, Jillian, you have been right. It is time that we have multiple income streams, and I'm now ready to sell digital products. If this is you, get on a free 20-minute call with me where I will help you come up with your digital product strategy and share best practices on how others are finding success. To book your call, just go to MiloTree.com, our homepage, scroll down, and you'll see a link to my calendar. And please remember, the one constant in building online businesses is change. So book your free call now. I'm excited to show you a whole new way to monetize.
Welcome to the Blogger Genius podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Welcome back to the show. I have an excellent episode for you today. I am interviewing Kayla Watkins. She is a Pinterest expert for bloggers. She is all about how to use Pinterest to drive traffic to our blogs. In this world now where we are all thinking about diversifying our traffic sources, this episode couldn't be more timely. And what's great about Kayla is she shares everything. How she thinks about keywords on Pinterest, how she thinks about niches, which she calls little boxes, how she helps bloggers with their content. So everything is connected. I believe you are going to want to open your notes app and take notes during this episode. I think it is a great way to fine-tune your own Pinterest strategy or to get motivated to get back into Pinterest. Also, Kayla has been posting on the Instagram app Threads and getting lots of traction. She shares about it, especially toward the end of the episode. So stay for that. And I personally have been posting more on Threads because of Kayla. So without further delay, here is my interview with Kayla Watkins. Kayla, welcome to the Blogger Genius podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's so nice. Okay, so I saw you on Instagram and I saw that you are a Pinterest marketer. You were sharing a lot of smart stuff. And I said, hey, do you want to come on my podcast to talk about Pinterest? So thank you. And the thing that I really want to explore with you are what you're seeing in terms of trends, because I'm seeing trends too, and I want to see if we're on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a lot of talk about Pinterest lately, which is beautiful for me because I think it went quiet for a while, but it's back. And I'm actually on Threads. I'm not sure if you're on Threads, but that's where I've just seen so much chatter about Pinterest and so much engagement. And I'm excited to see, what people are talking about and what they're thinking about and how they're kind of repositioning Pinterest and their full blogging strategy, which is exciting.
I just went live with a post literally 2 seconds before we got on this call, because yesterday I was on Facebook looking at some blogging Facebook groups, and all I kept hearing was bloggers freaking out. And they were freaking out because what has worked for blogging now is a little thrown up in the air. So what I was sharing with you before we pressed record was, I feel like if you're an old school blogger like we are, and we, again, for our site, Catch My Party, which is our first site, we get a ton of traffic from Pinterest. Right. And then, though, it felt like bloggers could just kind of start pinning and get automatic traffic. And when that started to change, they leaned into SEO on Google, because all of a sudden you could go, hey, I could learn keyword research. I could rank for low competition keywords and drive a bunch of traffic to my site. Now that Google is transforming because of AI, because of third-party cookies going away, because of just like search in general and a bunch of Google updates, I feel like bloggers are starting to say, hey, stuff that was working with Google isn't working anymore. And I'm watching people say, we need to lean back into Pinterest because Pinterest is driving traffic. So that was a lot, but would you tell me what you're seeing on your end and how it's working on Pinterest today?
Sure. I think that you're totally right. I have been doing Pinterest marketing since I think 2018. So those early sort of years of I've been on Pinterest forever. I was actually a blogger before I started Pinterest marketing. I was a lifestyle and wedding blogger, and I was getting tons of traffic to my site from Pinterest because I had been using it, for fun and because I loved the platform. And then I saw it was working for my business. And I was meeting all these bloggers, and they're like, well, we're not using Pinterest. We're only on Instagram. We're only on focusing on that. And so we're not getting a lot of traffic to our blog in general. They weren't even focusing on SEO at that point. So when I started getting into it, it was very easy to get traffic. It was a different strategy though, in some ways, because it was like 30 pins a day, or it was a lot more pinning that you needed to do. So it was a different way of getting it, but the traffic would come faster and a little bit easier and a little less, search engine keyword based than it does now. But I think what you said is right. I think SEO is so important, and it's never going to be something that I'm going to be like, you have to choose. It's SEO or Pinterest. To me, it's about diversifying between the two. SEO is always going to be so important for blogs and for traffic. But I think what provides stability is having an alternate source of blog traffic that is in the same sort of level as SEO, which I've seen Pinterest to be for my blogger clients. So either Pinterest is right above Google or Google's right above Pinterest, but either way, those are usually their top two traffic drivers. So it gives them like stability. It gives them a peace of mind that they know that if Google's going to change, they have Pinterest, or if Pinterest is going to change, they have Google. And the people that I know that have been around since those early days of Pinterest have seen that continued traffic source. And again, it's not going to be at the same level it once was back in the day, but it's still up there with Google, and it's still like giving that sort of diversifying your traffic in a way that makes you feel comfortable and feel like you're still going to get that traffic no matter what. So that's what I've been seeing as far as like how it's still comparable to Google, in my opinion. It's not 100%. It's not as easy. I feel like every social media platform is going the direction of ads and brands and all of those things. So it makes it a little harder for the organic creator on Pinterest, but definitely not impossible, and definitely still worthwhile to provide you that sort of stability, monthly traffic that you can count on, and diversify your traffic sources.
So you do full on Pinterest marketing for brands, for bloggers. Who's your ideal client?
Strictly bloggers, really. I've worked with all sorts of companies, but we really niche down to bloggers. We do food, fashion, beauty, lifestyle is really a home. So really the main categories on Pinterest, we're focusing on getting traffic to their blog so that they can monetize their blog through ads, so that they can monetize their blogs through digital products, so that they can get subscribers to their email list, really helping them. And our whole thing is repurposing content, which is the other reason I love Pinterest, is because it's about repurposing, not creating from scratch. So our whole thing is repurposing their content to get them more traffic and more money from Pinterest.
So somebody comes to you and
Mhm.
they say, hey, I haven't really been on Pinterest in a serious way. I want to diversify my traffic sources. I want to work with you. And let's assume they've set up their account. It's, I don't know, they've done the basics, right? Let's say
Right.
they are a fashion blogger, and maybe they would start with how many boards would you say?
About 10,
Okay, they've
let's
got
say.
their 10 boards, and let's say they do like give me a niche within fashion.
So like petite fashion bloggers is a
Ooh, good one. Okay.
good niche.
And so they've got like maybe their seasonal boards, and maybe they love Target or something like that. And they've got their Target board, and maybe they've got their formal board for petites, those kinds of things. So they've started with these
Right.
boards, and they've got blog posts on their site. And you
Right.
look at this, and maybe they've got 5 pins within each board to start. And you look at this and you say, okay, let's talk about your overall strategy. What do you do to start them off?
To start them off, I think really one of the things that people are lacking is that Pinterest still is a search engine. It is still keyword based. It is still very much about figuring out how people are searching for the content you create and how Pinterest is categorizing the content you create. So it kind of goes hand in hand. You want to make sure that you're using the right words that Pinterest is using and that your users or ideal readers or ideal new people to your blog are using. So the first thing I do when I look at a profile like that for a petite fashion blogger is I'm going to do keyword research. So to me, that is I'm going to have a spreadsheet set up on the side and I'm going to go through their whole menu on their blog. What are those main topics that their content pillars that they're creating content about on a regular basis? And how are people putting that in the search bar on Pinterest? How is Pinterest categorizing that content that comes up that's similar to what they're creating? I'm going to look at like bloggers that create similar content, other petite fashion bloggers. I'm going to search petite fashion, see what comes up on that drop box, just like Google does, where it has the list of keywords that come up. And Pinterest also has bubbles underneath that. So it has all these phrases of the way people are searching for petite fashion and what they want to know.
Your search tool that you are using is Pinterest itself.
Oh yeah. Yep, exactly. Google, I think, has similarities, but it's not the same. It's not the same user. Pinterest, I think, is just a little bit more niched into those big, buckets that Pinterest is famous for: DIY, food, fashion, beauty. So they're a little more niche. So they might have different terms than the average Google user might. So they might be a little bit more specific, a little more niche. So I'm going to see, what are people searching for about petite fashion? They're probably searching petite fashion outfits. They're searching petite fashion fall, petite fashion denim, all of these things. And I'm going to start dumping those into a spreadsheet so that I have some keywords to go back to when I'm creating pins, pin titles, pin descriptions. And these are like kind of those broad keywords that blogger is going to use in almost every piece of content because they just relate to what they're creating. So I'm going to start there. And that's how I'm going to, when I take that, I'm going to take that whole spreadsheet. I went through all of those. I went through all those board topics, especially if those actually relate to their content they're creating. I find often bloggers or even just anyone using Pinterest, they're creating boards that they're not really necessarily creating content about. They just like it. Maybe it was like a personal board that they were saving. They still have their wedding board from 10 years ago. So that's where I'm kind of doing a little cleanup and making sure that profile is a business profile that matches your actual blog and the content you're actually creating. Because you don't want a bunch of boards that you're not even pinning content to.
Or
You
that
want
you've
boards
been
that
pinning other
distinctly,
people's content to that isn't
right,
really your
right,
content. Would you agree with
right.
that?
And I agree with that. I think in the beginning, sometimes it's okay to use other people's content to give Pinterest an idea of what content you're going to be pinning in these boards. So if they've already categorized content correctly in the petite fashion industry, putting those on your boards to begin with is fine, because then it's just telling Pinterest, okay, you're going to see more of this when I start pinning. So it gives Pinterest just, again, you're just telling Pinterest, this is who I am. This is what I'm creating content about. This is who you should connect me with. And so making sure that's clear from your board titles, from the content in your board. But once you do that to sort of set up your profile, you can just do your content from then on out. There's no need to spend time on
Okay,
other
so
people's content.
so you've got this blogger doing petite fashion, and maybe they have 2 blog posts on denim. I like that idea. And you look at
Mhm.
those blog posts and you say, okay, we're going to repurpose this content to be found on Pinterest. What does that mean to you? So you've got 2 denim. Like, do you, first of all, go back to that blogger and go, you know what? Like, denim's big. You might want to be leaning into being more focused on petite denim because you're seeing this show up. Like, will you communicate that back to the blogger saying, hey, here's an opportunity I'm seeing for you? Or will you kind of leave that to the blogger and then go work with what they have?
So at the beginning, I'm working with what they have. I'm saying, okay, here's the content they're creating. Let's try all this. Let's use the keywords. I can see that people are searching heavily for denim. Let me try the different ways that they're searching to title the pin, add in the description. And then in 3 to 6 months, when we're reevaluating what's performed, and even at the end of the month, I like to report back to my clients like, okay, here's the top content for you. And to me, top content means outbound clicks. That would be my number one metric. And that just means basically traffic from they're clicking from Pinterest to your site. And that is always my goal for clients, is to kind of grow that number over time. So I will go back at the end of the month and I'll say, okay, hey, your 2 denim blog posts are at the top of your most outbound click pins. That's what I'm seeing. Maybe you want to create new content about it. Maybe you want to make sure that post is updated, make sure those affiliate links are perfectly working so that when you get all that traffic, you're not losing out on an opportunity to sell or an opportunity to, get an email subscriber. Maybe there's a freebie you want to create there because obviously people are coming to you as a source for denim. So there's definitely a lot of, I think that's another way I love to use Pinterest is content creation sourcing and content creation ideas. I think it's a great place to go for ideas because you're literally seeing what your niche is searching for and what content they want on the topics you typically create about. And then you can just create content to fill in those voids and to reach those same people on Pinterest. So yeah, it's definitely a place to go for that as well, for saying, okay, hey, I'm doing really well. Because at some point, Pinterest is going to say, this person creates great content about petite fashion denim. And I know that because they're getting a lot of saves and a lot of outbound clicks, and those pins are doing really well. So the next time you put out content about denim and the petite fashion niche, it's going to do well on Pinterest again because Pinterest already knows you're an authority for that subject. You're already ranking in the past. So yeah, it only helps to keep doubling down on the things that you're ranking well for on Pinterest.
Right. And because I'm such a believer in niching down, you might become the petite denim blogger. Like, not that you
Yes,
can't, and people get freaked out and go, oh my God, so you're saying I can't do bathing suits for petites? And
right,
it's like, no, 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 you can. But know that you're like owning this space. And if you are
right.
owning this space, own it even more.
Yes, 100% agree with that. I'm a huge niche fan. I think it works really well on Pinterest because Pinterest wants to put you into a little box. And so if you tell it the little box you want to go into, it's going to serve you right to the people that are searching for your content. So if you're saying, I write about denim for petite women, it's going to send you those people that are looking for denim. It's not going to, it likes to put you into the niche because then it knows who to send you to. And I think that's really important. And I think a lot of people go too broad. And sometimes I work with bloggers that are lifestyle bloggers and they are broad to begin with, and I'll just sort of niche them down on Pinterest as well. So like you might have a bunch of content on your blog, but you perform better for the specific niche on Pinterest. It's okay to niche down on Pinterest to be very
Mm.
specific. So like I think petite fashion is one. You might not in every single post say, hey, this is a petite fashion post, but you are a petite woman that writes about fashion. So niching down to petite fashion is only going to serve you well on Pinterest and help you reach really your target audience that likes both the fashion and the style and the aesthetic that you're sharing, and also cares about how clothes fit on their body, which is the same type as yours. So it's really a great way to, I think, find your ideal person, ideal reader, and email subscriber and all those things.
So now you've got these 2 blog posts on denim. And you
Yeah.
say, okay, hey, blogger, you haven't been exploiting these posts on Pinterest. I'm excited to do that for you. What would you do?
So for that, I think that what Pinterest loves is what they call fresh pins. And fresh pins to them is either new to Pinterest. So it's never been on Pinterest before. So that one blog post, the first time it's ever gone up, is fresh. The other thing that's a fresh pin is the same URL that's already been on Pinterest, but a new image for that URL. So a new graphic is a great way to do that. A new photo, if they decide to update their photography for that blog post, those are all fresh pins to Pinterest as well. So those are your best chances for getting reach on Pinterest, are those fresh pins.
So it's
And there's an
not, wait,
unlimited.
so is it a new URL, or which is more valuable to Pinterest? A new
The new
URL
URL.
or an updated image to an older URL?
First is a new URL. That's always going to be their top priority. Second would be a new image for new URL. Or I'm sorry, second would be a new image for a URL that's already been on Pinterest.
Okay.
So definitely the new URL is the most important. They love new content coming onto the platform. That's important for them. So it's always going to be important to be updating your blog, to have new blog posts, to be kind of consistent with your blog writing to do well on Pinterest. But when that's but they also love to either evergreen or seasonal posts, if you just create new graphics for those evergreen and seasonal posts, there's a point at which those can come back around and get the same, traffic and drive that a totally fresh new URL pin would do. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Pinterest, I feel like got very complicated. So in the early
Mhm.
days, it was super easy. Put up an image with some text overlay, telling what this pin is about, writing your description, not to be cute, but to be helpful with keywords, also in your pin title, and boom, let it sit there, let it kind of collect juice or momentum, and you could be
Right.
driving traffic. Then Pinterest came out with videos. Then Pinterest came out with idea pins and changed the names and did all these things. When you are working with this petite blogger and you just want clicks, where do you start? Where do you focus? Where are you going to get your biggest bang for your buck?
The biggest bang for your buck, luckily, and with it provides me a lot of comfort because it stayed the same, is your static pins. Your graphics and your photos are still going to get the biggest bang for your buck. If you do not have time to add in videos, if you do not have time to add in product tagging, idea pins are no longer. But if you don't have time for those things, then I would stick to graphics and I would stick to photos. They are the least time consuming to do. They are the most likely to get outbound clicks. I find that often graphics get more outbound clicks. What I mean by graphics is those photos with text overlay. Those get more clicks than photos. Photos often get saves. They'll kind of save them to be in their little scrapbook board, but often the graphics get more clicks because then they're like, okay, I need more information from this post, so I have to go to this post to get the rest of the information. So if you're a petite fashion blogger and you're saying 6 denim outfit ideas for petite women, you're going to post a photo of one of those outfits, the text overlay that says that, and they're going to want the other 5 outfits. So they're going to click through to get the other 5 outfits and to get more information for your blog. So it kind of entices them to leave Pinterest and to go further to your site and get more
That's
information.
interesting, by the way. I noticed how you didn't say put the 6 images, 6 outfits on
Right.
in that, as a collage, but to
Right.
say, hey, here's one. You like this, you got to click to get the others.
Totally. I think that's a great strategy for getting outbound clicks, which is what you want. You want them off of Pinterest and onto your site. I like to use the combo. So I'll use for that denim post, I will use all the photos that are vertical of just the outfits. Those will go up individually, and I will use those on text overlay graphics as well. I find that the photos will get a lot of saves, which is a metric that Pinterest really cares about. It tells Pinterest that this is a valuable piece of information. It benefits Pinterest because it stays on the platform, so they like that metric. So I'll play into that game too and get the saves, but then I'll also have plenty of graphics that are going out that entice you to follow through and go through the post onto your blog. And then you, as always, like every social media platform, you're watching how these pins perform. What does best for you specifically? Are you doing well for outbound clicks with photos? Are you doing well for outbound clicks on graphics? And what can you create more of so that you continue to grow that traffic from Pinterest to your blog?
Okay, so I've got these 2 posts and I want to get traffic to these 2 posts. What are you doing? Like, are you creating? So, and let's say each post has 6 images in it. What is your
Sure.
schedule? How often are you posting from these posts? How many of these graphics are you creating? Like, when you look at this and you say, okay, we need a strategy here, what is that strategy?
So I'm really looking at the whole sort of, not just these 2 posts, I'm looking at their whole sort of content strategy and goals, right? So for this blogger, obviously the goal is traffic and focusing on those 2, let's say they're evergreen posts, maybe they're not even recent, that do really, really well for them. Those are always going to be part of the strategy. But typically I look, okay, what's the new content that's come out in the last week? We pin for clients weekly, right? So we'll look in the last week, what content have they created on their blog? And we're going to start by making text overlay graphics for those new blog posts, because again, those are the like #1 fresh pins, the #1 new URLs to Pinterest. So they're going to do the best. So we're going to add those in first to
So wait, how
our
many? How
queue.
many? How many? I got a new post. It's petites for summer.
Okay, perfect. So I typically do 4 or 5 graphics. So I'm going to plug those images into 4 or 5 different text overlay graphics. I have those in Canva already. They are already created. They are already templates on Canva. So I can just plug in those new images, plug in the new title and text overlay, download those from Canva. And then I'll also have, let's say that also comes with 6 photos, right? 6 vertical photos of the actual outfits themselves, the summer outfits. So I'm going to include those. So let's say that's 11. I think that's 11 pins, right, for this one blog post that you're already have for this one new blog post. So if that's the only new blog post, I'm going to take those 11 pins and I'm going to put them into my personal tool of choice, which is Tailwind, for scheduling out your content. So I'm going to put those into the drafts of Tailwind. And then I'm going to say, what else do we want to share this week? Because we can't just share the same URL every day or multiple times a day. Those need to be spaced out. You need at least one day, I would say minimum, between the same URL. So we still have to fill in the blanks. And I think my usual recommendation, Pinterest says 5 to 10 pins a day is best practices. But for me, unless you're outsourcing it, I would say about 3 a day would be a good place to start. If it's not possible, go down to 2 a day. Just as long as you're consistent, obviously that is the most important thing. I think 3 a day is the best place to start if it's at all possible for your time and your, whatever else you have going on with your business. So I would plug those in, and then I would say, okay, we've got the new stuff in the drafts. What is seasonal or relevant or trending right now on Pinterest that we've already created content about in the blog, on our blog in the past? So if I see that, let's see, we're in summer, so like they have a vacation outfit roundup. That's going to be trending right now. People are already searching in March for summer travel outfit ideas. So I'm going to pull that post and I'm going to create some new graphics from it. I probably have already pinned the photos, so I'm not going to pin the photos again, but I'm going to create new graphics for that old blog post. And I'll have 5 more graphics for that post and throw them into the drafts as well. And the last thing I'll go to is evergreen content that I know is performing well. So that's where those denim posts are coming in. I'm going to create new graphics for those. And I'm going to also add those to my drafts. And so that's a great way to sort of decide, what content I'm going to be pinning this week. And then I'm making sure, the beautiful thing about Pinterest is that it's not just this piece of content that goes out once. So it's not just this summer graphic, the one of 5 graphics that goes out to one board. That graphic can go out to multiple boards. I would say like 3 is a good, place to start that are relevant. So that would go to the summer outfits board. That would go to the general petite fashion board. That would go to the dresses board, or like whatever it fits into for your board strategy. It has 3 different boards it can go to that's telling Pinterest, this is the pin about summer. This is a pin about petite fashion. This is a pin about dresses. So it's just further telling Pinterest, this is the kind of content I'm creating. That's why those boards are so important. It's telling Pinterest something. It's telling the algorithm something.
I want to take a short break to say that if you are looking to create your first digital product, I personally recommend you start with an ebook. And I have everything you need to create this. I have 13 ChatGPT AI prompts to use to create an ebook in under 3 hours. To grab this freebie, go to milotree.com/ebook prompts. That's milotree.com/ebook, EBOOK prompts, PROMPTS. Snag it today. What are you waiting for? And now back to the show. Now, isn't it though, the first board you pin it to needs to be the most relevant, or the most that's
Totally.
going to give you the most juice?
Right, totally. Because that's the first time Pinterest has ever seen that. And they're like, what is this piece of content? So you want that to be the most relevant description of it. For that summer one, I'd probably just say that summer petite fashion board is the most relevant, just that general summer board. So that would be the way that I would go about it, is that each pin gets to go to 3. So Pinterest or Tailwind has something called interval pinning, which basically allows you to put those spaces in between those pins so that you're not spamming. So I would have, start with those new pieces of content and put it to 3 boards, and then space it out, maybe like 7 to 10 days in between them, because then you have that one graphic for that board. Then you have graphic 2 that's going to go out in a couple days. Then you have graphic 3 that's going to go out in a couple days. So it allows you to like totally space out your content so it doesn't look like this one graphic to this one post is going out every other day. Instead, you have one graphic going out to one post. 2 days later, another graphic going out to the same post 2 days later. So it gives you a little bit more space and less spam, but still the same amount of chances to really tell Pinterest what this piece of content is. It also allows that first piece of content to get some juice, as you called it, or really, rank and categorize that piece of content in the search engine and get going before the next pin starts sending out in 2 days.
When you are creating those first graphics, which again is an image with text overlay, it could be a collage, it could be just one image. Are
Right.
you thinking about the use case and creating different use cases for that content? For example, with the summer petite post, you've
Mm-hmm.
got what to wear in summer if you are petite, but it could also be what to wear on vacation in summer for petite, or what are the new shapes for petite fashion, or I don't know, I'm running out of ideas. That idea of
Yeah.
saying this because I'm thinking about somebody on Pinterest searching, and not everybody is going to be searching summer petite fashions. They might have a different use case, cruise fashions, who knows? And so
Right.
it could fit into a different bucket, and that you are doing that thinking for Pinterest users rather than 6 different ways or 5 different ways of saying summer petite fashion trends.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think definitely is worth doing. I think where people get tripped up is if they're doing it themselves, it feels like too much to do. I think when you outsource, that's kind of what we do. But I do think the good way to go about it is it goes back to that keyword research, right? We have that spreadsheet that has all of these like summer petite fashion boards, so we can, or keywords, so we can see right there what are people searching and how are they phrasing it. We have that. We also, if this piece of content is a little bit more specific and we haven't done the keyword research for the specific post, let's say it's summer petite summer dresses, so it's a little bit more specific. So we haven't done the full research for that. We just have petite summer keywords. Then I go back to the search bar. What are people asking about petite summer dresses? How are they phrasing it? What are their top searches? And that's where I'm going to pull those pin titles and text overlay for those graphics from. I just go back to the search bar and use those. And then I make sure both the broad and the niche topics and keywords that I found from my spreadsheet that I already had and the search bar from that specific blog post are in my pin title and description. So even if your text has just sort of the overall broad topic, I'm making sure that in those pin titles and your pin descriptions, you're adding all those other keywords that people are going to be searching for. That's going to tell Pinterest this is specifically about summer dresses for the cruises. If you're going on a cruise and you're looking for the perfect petite summer dress, this post has 10 petite fashion ideas for your summer travel, vacation. So like that's where it's going to be, where all your keywords are going to be found, in addition to that text overlay. I feel like making sure the description has those is a faster way to go about it if you're doing your own Pinterest account. And the text overlay and the graphic can be a little bit more general or broad, or um, and that can be copied and pasted to the multiple graphics is one way to do it. Because the other thing is, if you see that you're ranking for a specific term, it's gone for 3 to 6 months, you see that you're coming up for this, you see that people are saving it to their cruise board, you see that you can read those analytics and say, okay, now it's time to reschedule that pin. And now it's going to be a fresh pin with a new title because I see they're using it for cruises, 10 petite cruise dress ideas, et cetera. So that's how you can kind of reuse it and recycle that information that you got from analytics that you already know you're ranking for. Let's try again with those specific keywords.
Are you going back to the blogger and saying, hey, I'm seeing this ranking for cruises, put cruises in the blog post?
Typically, we do more of the changes on the Pinterest side and they leave it the same. But we do go back to them and say, this is what we're finding and here's why we're using this, because they're going to want to know why we're using it in this context. So definitely. And sometimes I'll be like, that's a good reason to write a specifically cruise post, maybe not rename your blog title if you're already using it in different ways, but here's an additional cruise outfit idea post that you can add and then link within that original one that's getting all the traffic. So it allows them to surf the site longer, to create more affiliate links, to create more content that's relevant. And then that second post about cruise outfits, that could be repurposing some of the content already in the original post, goes out on Pinterest again with a fresh URL and a new pin. So
I
it
like
gives it a lot of opportunities to grow that one post.
I like how it's all connecting, how there's a holistic strategy behind all of this. So, what would you say your quick tips are on pin titles, pin descriptions, and hashtags, which I know like they have certain hashtags from what I understand or categories. What is your advice?
Okay, I'm going to start with hashtags because that's kind of low-hanging fruit. I'm not a hashtag fan on Pinterest. I think you get mixed reviews. It was once a thing, then it wasn't a thing for sure, and now people are kind of coming back with hashtags. I don't think they're relevant. It's not user-friendly. No one searches with hashtags, they search with words. So until that becomes something that people use to search, I don't think it's worth it. So I would just leave hashtags out of your to-do list just to save yourself the time and trouble. Um, but I think for the other thing for pin titles and descriptions, really the shortest way to go about it, in my opinion, is to go to that search bar and say, okay, I wrote this blog post. It's titled this. What is Pinterest saying about the same exact topic? So I titled it this. How is Pinterest saying it? I mean, I would even recommend you go to Pinterest before you made the blog post title to see how to name your blog post. That would really be like the ideal situation for me. And I think perform best for you because you're seeing exactly how people are phrasing it. So even today, I was working with a content creator, and she has a blog post called "Coffee Chocolate Cake." But in Pinterest, it's chocolate coffee cake is like the most it's more highly searched than the other route. So I'm renaming it on my end to chocolate coffee cake, even if that's not her blog post title. That's what her graphics are going to say. That's what the pin title and pin description is going to say. And so I think that's a great place to start really when you're naming your blog post. That way it's a very easy transition. So you already named your blog post correctly, and the pin title can easily be named that same thing. So for pin titles, I like to do the title of the blog post, but making sure it's phrased the Pinterest way. So in this case, like I would change it to chocolate coffee cake. And then I also like to do the the blog name. So I would do, Kayla Watkins LLC or the Blogger Genius, whatever the blog name is next to it. And that's kind of all I have in the pin title, short and sweet. Sometimes I add a couple additional keywords, like so easy dessert recipe, let's say, might be in that one. And then the description, I really, again, go back to that search bar. What did I see when people were searching for coffee cake? They want to know that it's moist. They want to know that it's homemade. They want to know what kind of frosting, so buttercream frosting. So these are the keywords that I'm including into this description. I'm saying, this looking for an easy dessert idea for your next party. This chocolate coffee cake recipe is moist and is made with coffee buttercream icing. Get the full dessert recipe on the blog. So like I'm really taking all those keywords and just naturally putting it into the description. I'm worrying less about connecting to the user who kind of rarely reads that. I'm worrying more about connecting to the search engine that is scouring that piece of information for words to use. But I'm not making it like keyword, comma, keyword, comma, keyword, comma. That's not recommended.
Are you
So
filling out as many characters as you can? Are these short? Are they as long as you can make them?
I would say about 3 to 4 sentences is plenty. I would not make it as long as possible. But I also, it's not 2 sentences or just a real quick blurb. It is a little bit more. I usually do 2 sentences that are about the specific blog post. So, this is about coffee cake. It's moist. It's made with chocolate. It's made from scratch, et cetera, et cetera. Those 2 sentences describe the specific blog post, and then I'll say like follow for more easy dessert recipes and cake homemade or cake from scratch recipes, that kind of thing. So it's a little broader, and that I pull from that big spreadsheet that I already dumped and I know that they're creating all their content about. So I'm making sure it fits into all of these keywords that I'm writing and including, but I'm including some broader ones and some more super specific for that piece of content that you created.
And I asked you in the questions I sent over how you're incorporating AI. And it was interesting because you said, I have all these systems set up that I don't really need AI right now.
Yeah, I think I think for me and for my team, really, we have been doing it for so long that these kind of come to me and they flow a little easier. And I rely really heavily on the search bar and I rely really heavily on the trends section of Pinterest to see what people are actually searching for that week. So I use less AI. It's not, I totally think there's ways to go about it. Tailwind, for example, has a ghostwriter feature. So they will write your pin title and pin description for you. And I think that's a great place to start because they allow you to plug in keywords in there. So if you've done your research, you can't skip the research section or part of that. But if you've done your research and you say, okay, I see like, from scratch, buttercream, those are the keywords that this particular post is being searched for most frequently, then I'm going to put those into the Tailwind Ghostwriter. It'll create something and I'm going to just edit it from there. So I think there's ways to go about that for pin title and description that you can just edit it. And I think that works great too. I think as long as you're going back to it, I found the Tailwinds is a little bit glitchy. It's a little bit, less natural. It sounds a little bit more forced, but all you do is edit that. So it'll give you that base and you can edit that and sort of make it sound more natural and correct to you. But I just say, don't skip the keyword research. You can't skip that part. So making sure you're doing that and making sure it's on Pinterest is where you're doing that research as well will provide you the best results.
It sounds like then the tools you are using are Pinterest and Tailwind. Anything else?
Canva.
And
Canva is
Canva,
where
of
I'm creating
course.
all those templates that I'm saving and creating from. I think those are my top. The other one that we use is Airtable. So because, like I said, you can pull content from the past or evergreen content that does well. I like to track, okay, what have I already put as a pin title and pin description? Because then the second go around, it's a lot easier to just edit those and create pin titles and descriptions that are a little different from the original, try new keywords. And I like to see what graphics I already created and what keywords I created. So Airtable is a database for collecting all of that information and saying, okay, hey, here's what I've already pinned. Here's
And
when I already pinned it.
you're putting the pins actually in Airtable so you can see the previous pins.
Totally. I'm doing the pin title. I'm sorry, the blog post title. I'm doing the link to the blog post. I'm doing the photos that came from the blog post originally, then the graphics, and then the pin title and pin description I've already used. And then finally, what month I last pinned that post in so that I know, okay, here's a time to recirculate these pins that are evergreen, that are still relevant and did well. Let's try it again. Let's see those graphics. What can I tweak in the words and the text overlay to make it a fresh pin? And then how can I tweak the title and description to try new keywords and to try ranking for things that might be more seasonally relevant, let's say in 2024 than it was in 2023 when I last posted it to Pinterest.
Is there
So
any,
Airtable is a great way to store that.
that sounds, yes. Is there any, have you tried this where you've taken, say, an old pin that you made a year ago and actually
Mhm.
just repinned it? Or do you think Pinterest is like, no, 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 we know, we've seen this before. It's not worth it. It used to
Yeah, they
be,
typically,
it was all
I
about
know,
just repin, repin,
I
repin.
know. Yeah, no, typically because they're so focused on the fresh pins that they know that that's already been up there and it's already done what it's gonna do. So getting it out there in a fresh way helps it like, okay, let's recategorize this, gives it another shot. So no, I don't typically do that. I think that maybe the caveat and the exception would be occasionally I throw out the same, like let's say outfit photo, the actual photo, the photography again. Likely though, I'll try to like crop it differently or make it a little bit different than I did the first time around, just so that it still remains fresh and gives like a full chance. But the good thing is those pins that you already posted, maybe you're not repinning them. They're still doing the work for you. They're still getting ranked. They're still getting new traffic. I think a lot of us have sort of viral pins that are just at the top of those your Pinterest analytics and they live there forever. I think that's very common for a lot of people. Almost like all of my clients have that, just these viral pins from, maybe years ago, maybe just last year, but they kind of live on forever. And to me, the goal is, okay, let's keep those living on. Let's become experts in those sort of categories if it's still possible. But then let's also add in new content and try to build that evergreen base so that when these viral like peaks happen, you still have a higher and higher base of traffic, which builds the sort of stability you can count on um, from Pinterest traffic. So that's always my goal is like, can we build those evergreen posts that are not viral up higher and higher so that when you go back down from a viral pin, like let's say it's fall petite fashion or summer petite fashion, that's only going to be, do well for so long in the year. And you want it to come back down to where those denim fashion posts for petite fashion are still high enough to where you're still getting enough blog traffic that you need for, your goals and the things that you're trying to achieve.
One thing that I hear is I tried Pinterest and it didn't work for me. How long do I need to be at it to really get reward, to see the results? You said you should be pinning 5 to 10 in like an optimal world, you should be
Right,
pinning 5 to 10 pins a day. And then you're like,
right,
well, to start, maybe it's 3 pins a day. Even 3 pins a day is a lot. So I'm going to be at this and at this and at this. And I find one of the things that my audience struggles with is I've got a limited amount of time. So how long do you recommend I stick in there with faith to have this pay off for me?
Sure. I think that is the most frustrating thing about Pinterest. I think it aligns with Google in that way where it's super time consuming, but the payoff is, like I said, endless. And the chances of being found on Pinterest is endless. There's no time limit, there's no lifespan of a pin the way that there is on Pinterest where you got 24 hours. If it doesn't get the engagement, you're
You mean
likely not getting.
Instagram.
Sorry. Yes.
Or,
Instagram
yes.
has, I think, a 48-hour lifespan. So if you're not getting anything in the 48 hours, it's pretty much done for. Pinterest does not work like that. So I'm going to preface that to give Pinterest a little love that you get this traffic for years to come. You might not even rank for a post that that you created this year until the next season of it. So if you wrote an Easter post this year, you didn't get any love. Next year, in January or February, you might get love on that same Easter pin. So it really is about sticking to it. I say my minimum even to like change anything in your strategy is 3 months. If you're doing it yourself, I would say even 6 months is a great place to check and say, okay, hey, this is working for me. This is not. And often, like most platforms and things that you start, it's about trial and error. So the first go around, you might find that, okay, hey, these graphics were not working, but I see this one graphic that actually is getting outbound clicks. How can I make more similar graphics from this? 3 months down the road, I see, okay, this one graphic is doing well, the rest of them not getting any traffic. Okay, how can I make more of this style graphic to increase my chances of being found the next go around? So for 3 more months, I'm going to try more of that top pin style. I'm going to try that for my next round of blog posts. So it's really about trial and error. It's really about sticking in it. I mean, really 6 to 9 months, if you're doing it yourself and if you're only doing like 3 pins a day, is where I would say is when you'll know. And you'll just know by, I think the important thing also to realize is blog traffic important to you? What are your goals with it? Because I think a lot of people lose focus on why they're trying to get traffic to their blog and what it can actually do for them and what creating this additional source of traffic actually does for them. So make sure it's hitting those goals as well. Like make sure you have a way to convert on those pages that are getting traffic from Pinterest. Make sure you have, the things that you need, the main tools that both you and I like to preach, like email lists and things like that. Make sure you have those opportunities for that traffic, because otherwise it's just traffic and you're not doing anything with it and it's not really helpful in general. So you're going to quit Pinterest because there's no point and you're not seeing any results really anywhere else in your business.
As we wrap up, when you think about Pinterest, my hunch is you're reading a lot about Pinterest trends, what they're thinking about their own business, because I know that over the years, Pinterest has tried a bunch of stuff. And they, for example, tried to be an e-commerce platform. They've tried to compete with Instagram and TikTok and all of this. Where do you see them changing, staying the same, doubling down? What trends are you seeing?
So I think they are always going to focus, or they are always going to have the mindset of e-commerce, because e-commerce is going to spend the most money on advertising. E-commerce is going to, be the ones keeping people on the platform for longer. They're going to be giving those big numbers. But I think it's important to focus on not just where Pinterest is headed, but more, what are the users still using the platform for? And I think the platform has remained very much the same in the way that the actual users of Pinterest are using the platform, despite what changes they've tried to make, like the Pinterest TV or the idea pins or the things like that. Despite that, you're still seeing the users go to it as a visual search engine. They are still going to plan, to inspire, they do go to purchase as well. It's just a little bit longer of a sort of feed, because they're looking for value. And then once they find the value, they're like, okay, you told me how to renovate my shower. Now I want to buy the tile that you used. So it's a little bit longer of a pipeline, but it's still going for the same thing. They're going to plan their weddings, they're going to plan their meals, they're going to plan their outfits, they're going to get information and education. They're going for a value content. And that's where the bloggers can always step in because they're the ones creating the value content. And that's always going to connect well to that user. So I think the users are still using it the same way. They're going to go to Pinterest to find something that what they're looking for. So they're looking specifically, how am I wearing these barrel jeans that everybody's posting about, right? So they're saying, how to wear barrel jeans. And then there's a creator that's creating content about specifically that. Here's 10 ways to wear barrel jeans, or here's, 10 affordable barrel jeans. So I think it's always going to be a place where no matter where Pinterest tries to go, I always try to ground my clients in what are the users still using the platform for, because ultimately Pinterest will have to come back to that because they want to keep the users on the platform. And that's what you've seen them do. They've played with things, but ultimately they came back to their sort of roots. And so I think that that's really useful. And I also think, what can you use it for as a business is also important. So if you're using Pinterest and you're just saying, okay, let me try these different things. Let me try Pinterest TV. Let me try idea pins, but they're not getting you, like, idea pins didn't link to your blog. So if they're not getting you what you want ultimately, then again, they're not worth it for you to invest in, because you're not going to make, money from it or grow your community from it or anything sort of valuable for your business. Did I answer that or did I?
Totally. Is there a place
Okay.
for Pinterest ads?
I think there is. I am like an organic sort of focus with my bloggers, but I think there is. They're pretty affordable. They are pretty easy to do, I think, for Pinterest ads. Likely, again, you're going to see them boost your sort of viral peaks, and then they'll come back down to your evergreen content. So I think that's kind of a great way to maybe boost things quickly. I think if you have a digital product or something small that you sell, that's a great way to boost things. I think Pinterest users also, they don't know you, right? You're not an influencer to them. It's not an influencer space. It's more they're coming for the valuable content you create. So you want to make sure you're focused on that and not focused on, who you are and trying to sell your own personal self. That's different. It's a different platform. It's not for that. It's like, what can I teach you? What can I help you with? And then you're creating with them. So I would always make sure whatever you're promoting or creating an ad behind is serving the people versus like serving, creating brand awareness for you. But I do think there's places for ads as long as, again, you are getting wherever you're getting this traffic to, you have a great way to monetize it. So you have some ROI on it. So if you're putting some ad money behind a digital product or a post that heavily describes a digital product or points you in the direction of the funnel of the digital product, then I think that's a great way to spend money on the platform. Or if it's a really heavy affiliate post, let's say you're a creator and this one has a lot of great affiliate links, that's a great post to promote on Pinterest. So I think that's where like the ad money should be spent if you do spend ad money is on, the valuable content that you're maybe already seeing too. Pinterest is loving. They're like, go back to the denim idea. They already think you're a denim person. So putting additional ad money behind that is going to make that, your bang for your buck go even further. And then making sure on your site, you have a way to capture that. Maybe you've set up a freebie there. Maybe you have a digital product there, making sure those all correlate. So I think it's really just that full funnel picture. That it's very easy, not very easy, but it's easy to grow organically, and that's important. And you always have to have that. But if you want to boost it a little bit here and there, or if you have a goal that you're trying to meet, ads are always a great way to reach that as well.
Kayla, I feel like you have been such a wealth of knowledge. And I think what's so interesting is it's about the basics and it's about connecting the pieces. So it's not just
Yeah,
Pinterest. It's, okay, what are
right,
you doing with Pinterest? Thinking through the entire strategy, going back to the blog posts, updating the blog posts to make sure they're optimized, make sure this is converting. If you send traffic to a
right,
page and nothing's happening on that page because you've offered a freebie, but nobody really wants the freebie when they get there because it's hard to sign up for, who knows, or it's not working. You've got to be
right.
thinking about all of these different pieces. But I think you've been so good at kind of taking a step back from Pinterest and talk about how Pinterest is a piece to accelerate your entire business.
Yes. I think that's totally it. I try to preach this as much as possible because I think when Pinterest takes so long to grow, when there's so many other platforms that people are getting immediate burst of income from, like let's say Instagram or TikTok, right? You're going to get a big brand deal. They're going to pay you a lot for a video, or an Instagram post. But what that doesn't create is sort of stability and traffic to a site that you own, where you have future control, where you can, gain those email subscribers, where you can switch what you're doing, where you can redirect them as your business changes. I love that Pinterest points them back to your platform. And that's why I'm always like harping on that, because there's so many opportunities to convert on your platform that are so valuable, and in the longevity of your brand and your business, and keep people coming back. So it's a great way to meet new people that go straight to your platform and that connects into your world for good. And I think that's really important. And I think an underutilized, way to focus on your blog. And so that's why I really love it, is how it fits into that big long-term strategy, and it gives you stability in your business. I think often, like the influencer sort of world forgets about, because they get those big spurts of cash from the brand deals. But how can we also create stability on the things that we own, the things that we sell, the community that we're creating? How can you gain sort of ownership over that, so that you don't have to freak out if TikTok gets banned or if Instagram crashes, or you have this sort of stability and things to fall back on that you own and that you can control. And I love that Pinterest points you there. It's not a platform you own, but it points you to a platform you own, and therefore you can convert and connect them into the world that you own.
I always say that Pinterest is a really good boyfriend who you might, if you're smart, marry. And Instagram and TikTok are kind of like fun, but they're never going to commit.
Yeah, that's very true. So true. And I was just talking about this on Threads too with someone. It's like, and you never know really what Instagram wants, and you're trying to like please them. Anyways, it's very different. I've gone with that analogy too before, sort of. I like that a lot. Yeah.
So just very briefly, before we wrap up, what are you doing on Threads and what are you finding useful?
Okay, so Threads is like, I don't know how I stumbled into it. Obviously, I started when they launched. I got on there, then I just dropped off. And then I came back recently, and I just started, all I've been doing is legitimately copying, pasting. I go to my Instagram analytics and I see what is the most saved Instagrams from the last 2 years, copying and pasting the text and translating in a way that, makes sense for a small text on Threads, and sharing that. And I've gotten so much traction on just reusing content that I've already used on Instagram. I even like put up people were asking for help, so I sent out my freebie link, and that was downloaded very quickly. And then I sent out my newsletter link the other day. I have 52 subscribers in the last 2 weeks that have joined my email list from Threads. I have
So you're treating it, you're not resharing Instagram posts. You are literally taking the content in your post where you've written stuff and repurposing that on Threads.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. And then the other thing is they have such a great search tool. So if you see anybody talking about Pinterest or blogging, in my case, I'll step in and give my sort of 2 cents. I've also found that polls work well there. So people, are engaging with these polls that I'm creating about, how they're using Pinterest or what they're seeing. So both of those, both engaging with people that are talking about Pinterest, I'm going right in and inserting my sort of opinion and value on that conversation. I'm allowing people to ask me questions, which they're very engaging in comparison to what I receive on Instagram, which is, mostly crickets. And I have way less followers on Threads. I have, about 1,500 right now on Threads, but I had 800 2 weeks ago, right? So it's just growing at such a crazy pace. I know. And it's giving me, I like that it's giving me email subscribers. That is my most important metric that it's giving me. So I can see that because I made a separate link in Flowdesk finally. And at least 52 people have come from Threads to my email list, which I love. So I've been really using it for those things. I kind of, I'll tweet out my email list. I have a trends PDF that goes out every week on my email list that comes straight from Pinterest, and the top things that are trending in different niches. So I kind of tease that out on Threads and say, here's where you could get it. And that's how it sort of got me all the subscribers. And I'm going to continue doing that and playing with it and seeing how it goes. But it's been a fun tool that I can do. I like because it's, not as time consuming. I can do it when I'm with my 3 kids and just like sitting there. It's just a little bit easier to navigate than having to create all the carousels and the videos that I need to do for Instagram, which is the other place I market pretty heavily.
Wow. Okay, Kayla, people want to reach out to you, learn about what you do, ask you a question. Where should they go?
Sure, I'd love that. My website is kaylawatkins.com, and then you can also find me at Pinterest for Bloggers, which is the easiest thing to remember, on Instagram or Threads. And I would love to chat with you guys there.
Well, I have just learned so much. I thought this was so helpful. And again, you've kind of connected the dots. And that is
Good.
always what I'm talking about, is stepping back and making sure all the pieces connect to each other. So I just have to say, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.
I hope you guys like this episode. For me, my biggest takeaway is that if you are approaching a platform like Pinterest, you need a strategy that is all encompassing. What I mean by that is you need to be in a very defined niche. Your content needs to represent that niche, solve problems for your audience, and your content needs to show the keywords that people are actually using to search for it. And those keywords need to be in your blog posts, in your pins, in your descriptions. It's like everything has to work together. I do think there is something very logical about Pinterest, which makes it feel different than Instagram, where it's all about the dopamine hits and seeing how much you engage. It's almost like going to Vegas. Whereas I feel like Pinterest is slow and steady, but pays off in the long term. As we all continue to look for new ways, not only to drive traffic, but to diversify our income, definitely think about MiloTreeCart as the easiest way you can start selling digital products. In fact, remember I said start with an ebook. Well, you need a place to sell it. You need a place to deliver it, and you need a free sales page created with AI in 2 minutes. Also, with MiloTreeCart, you could set up unlimited memberships, subscriptions, coaching, workshops, mini courses. It's all there. Go to MiloTree.com. Sign up. It's a one-time lifetime deal of $349. We even have a 3-month payment plan. And most people earn back that $349 after they have launched their first product. And there's no risk because I offer a 30-day, no questions asked money back guarantee. And right now, until the end of April, I will give you a free 1-hour coaching call to make sure you are set up for success. Again, go to MiloTree.com. If you have any questions, email me. I love hearing from you. If you're liking the show, please rate it on iTunes, because then I can continue to get great guests. And I will see you here again next week.